There are films you finish and immediately shelve, films you enjoy and then forget. And then there are films like Interstellar, films that keep running in your head not because they are confusing, but because they feel unfinished. Interstellar is often spoken about in extremes. Either it's a masterpiece of modern science fiction or an overlong film that mistakes skill for depth. Both readings have evidence. What's more interesting is why the film keeps producing that split in the first place. Tempered Critic looks at films that aim high, sometimes train under their ambition, and are still worth taken seriously. The focus here is on intent, structure, and execution, and on why something can feel so close to working even when it doesn't quite hold. Interstellar is at its strongest when it treats emotion as a physical reality, something with weight, consequence, and cost. It weakens when it tries to explain that emotion instead of trusting the audience to continue feeling it. This isn't a film that fails because it reaches too far. It's a film that occasionally reaches for reassurance. The first thing Interstellar gets right is tone. It doesn't open on spectacle. It opens on decay, dust in the air, crops failing, people adapting to smaller lives. The world isn't destroyed, it's shrinking. And the film understands that a slow collapse is more unsettling than a sudden one, because it looks like normal life with the color drained out. Nolan's approach to science fiction here is unusually grounded for a film this big. The technology is functional, the spaces are cramped, the future feels engineered, not designed. Even the more extraordinary images, the wormhole, the black hole, aren't framed as fantasy. They are framed as environments with rules. That seriousness makes the emotional story land harder because the film isn't asking you to feel awe instead of grief. It's asking you to hold both. And the central emotional engine is clear and simple. Cooper leaves his daughter to save humanity, knowing that the act of leaving may destroy the relationship that defines him. The film isn't subtle about that cost, but it's not manipulative either. It lets the ugliness sit there. Zimmer's score does important work in this balance. It isn't sad music or space music. It's pressure. It expands and contracts like breathing, insisting on scale even when the characters are trapped inside small rooms making ugly choices. When Interstellar is working, it isn't because the ideas are clever. It's because the film commits to the emotional consequences of those ideas. Structurally, Interstellar functions like two different movies welded together. The first half is an endurance story. It's built on scarcity, limited fuel, limited time, limited certainty. The narrative escalation is clean. Each decision narrows the future. The film controls information carefully, and because the rules are clear, the tension feels earned. The water planet sequence is the clearest example. Time dilation isn't presented as trivia, it's presented as horror. The wave is physical danger, but the true threat is what the wave does to the math. Minutes become years. The loss happens off screen, and that's why it hurts. This is Nolan at his best, concept turned into consequence. Then the film begins to pivot. The further it moves into solving gravity, the more it shifts from consequences driven storytelling to concept driven storytelling. The momentum isn't gone, but the engine changes. Instead of what does this choice cost, the film starts asking, how do we explain what this means? And that shift matters because Interstellar is most powerful when it trusts the audience to feel the cost without being talked into it. There's a version of Interstellar's thematic argument that is genuinely strong. Human emotion is not an obstacle to survival. It's part of why we survive at all. Love, loyalty, and attachment are irrational, but they are also what make sacrifice possible. They are what make exploration worth doing. They are what make extinction unacceptable. That's a compelling idea for a science fiction film because it refuses the usual cold futurism. It says, even at the end of the species, we are still human first. The trouble is how the film chooses to deliver this idea. In the earlier sections, love is communicated through behavior. Murph's refusal to let Cooper leave, Cooper's hesitation, the way time doesn't just pass, it steals. The film demonstrates attachment as something that bends a person out of shape. Later, the film begins to state its argument out loud, repeatedly, in ways that feel less like character expression and more like thesis reinforcement. It's not that the sentiment is embarrassing. It's that the film subtly seems worried the audience might miss it. And when a film starts explaining its emotional intent, it can shrink the emotion. It turns experience into messaging. Interstellar doesn't become cynical, it becomes slightly self conscious. McConaughey carries this film because Cooper is defined by a particular kind of damage. He's useful, he's capable, and he's trapped in a world that no longer has used for him. His anger isn't theatrical, it's practical. He's a man built to move, forced to rot in place. Merv, especially in the first half, is written with real clarity. Her intelligence is shown through action, not speeches, and her anger is allowed to be ugly. The film doesn't treat her as a cute emotional obstacle. It treats her as a person, watching someone choose the world over her and refusing to forgive it. As the story becomes more abstract, some characters begin to function less as people and more as carriers of ideas. Dr. Brand is the most obvious example. Her conflict is real, but the film often expresses it through exposition rather than lived moments. She starts to feel like a position inside the screenplay. That doesn't ruin the film, but it does change its texture. The breaking point isn't the bookshelf itself. The bookshelf is a symbol. The breaking point is the film's increasing need to make sure its emotional logic is understood rather than felt. Earlier, the film's boldest ideas work because they are experienced through time and loss. Later, the film spends more energy clarifying mechanics and declaring meaning. It isn't incoherent, it's overly managed. And the difference matters. The film stops trusting the audience to sit with mystery. It starts organizing the mystery. Interstellar is not a clean machine. It's uneven. It's occasionally over articulated. And its second half carries a faint sense of the film coaching the viewer towards the feeling it had already earned. But it's also sincere in a way blockbuster cinema rarely allows itself to be. It treats extinction as tragic, not thrilling. It treats science as labor, not magic. And it treats love as something large enough to survive the story without becoming a joke. Most of the time, Interstellar doesn't just show you space, it shows you what space cost. And even where it wobbles in service of something serious. The belief that human attachment is not a weakness to outgrow, but a force that makes survival meaningful. It almost holds together perfectly. And the reason it doesn't is also the reason it endures. If you found this kind of analysis interesting, liking the video or subscribing helps the channel continue. Thanks for listening.